Frogs, the hidden night singers of urban wetlands. When a city falls silent, when night falls over a city, something unusual begins to happen. The streets grow quieter, traffic fades, lights glow in apartment windows. And slowly, another sound emerges from the darkness, a chorus, soft at first, then louder, dozens of voices calling through the night. The voices do not come from people, they come from the wetlands hidden between our buildings, from points in city parks, from drainage canals, from quiet patches of water that many people pass without noticing. They are the voices of frogs. To many people, the sound of frogs is simply background noise, a familiar part of simple nights. But those calls are far more than random sounds. They are signals. Messages sent across water and vegetation. Each call belongs to a different species. Each rhythm carries meaning. Each voice plays a role in the ancient language of amphibians. Frogs have been singing this way for millions of years. Long before cities existed, long before humans built roads or buildings, their voices once echoed through forests, swamps, and rivers across the planet. And even today, in the middle of modern cities, their songs continue. Hidden in small wetlands that survive between human structures, these places may appear small to earth, a pond, a drainage ditch, a patch of reeds near a park. But for frogs, the environments can be entire worlds. Places to hunt, places to breed, places to survive. Frogs belong to a group of animals known as amphibians. The word amphibian comes from Greek. It means double life. And frogs truly live between two worlds. Part of their life unfolds in water, part of it takes place on land. This unique lifestyle connects them closely to wetlands. Any place where water gathers long enough to support their life cycle, because every frog begins life in water as a tiny egg, floating among plants or resting beneath the surface. From those eggs emerge tadpoles, small aquatic larvae with gills and tails. They swim like fish, breathing underwater, feeding on algae and microscopic organisms. But tadpoles do not remain this way forever. Over time, their bodies begin a remarkable transformation. Legs grow, gills disappear, lungs develop, the tail shrinks. Eventually, the tadpole becomes a frog, the ancient lineage of amphibians, long before cities existed, before forests filled the continents, even before dinosaurs walked the earth, the ancestors of frogs were already beginning their story. The history of amphibians back more than 250 million years. During this distant period of Earth's past, the planet looked very different. Much of the land was covered in vast wetlands and shallow waters. Early vertebrates were still exploring the boundary between aquatic life and life on land. Among the early pioneers were creatures that would eventually give rise to modern amphibians. They were neither fully fish nor fully land animals. Instead, they possessed traits of both worlds. Primitive lungs allowed them to breathe air. Strong fins helped them push across muddy shores. The animals represented one of the earliest steps in the great evolutionary transition from water to land. Over millions of years, the early amphibian ancestors diversified. Some species remained mostly aquatic. Others became more adapted to terrestrial environments, and slowly the first true frogs began to appear. The earliest frog-like fossils date back around 200 million years. During the early age of dinosaurs, one of the most well-known ancient species is Triodopathatus, often considered one of the earliest protofrogs. Unlike modern frogs, its body was slightly longer and less specialized for jumping, but its structure already showed the beginning of the frog body plan. Large hind legs, shorter front limbs, and a skeleton adapted for powerful leaps. Jumping would become one of the defining abilities of frogs. Their movement allowed them to escape predators quickly. It also helped them travel efficiently across wetlands and forest floors. As frogs evolved, their bodies became increasingly specialized. Their skeletons became lighter, their legs grew stronger, and their muscles adapted to store and release energy for sudden jump. Today, many frogs can lift more than 20 times their body length, an incredibly feat for such small animals. But frogs are not only remarkable for their movement, they also developed another important survival strategy: their skin. Unlike reptiles or mammals, frog skin is thin and highly permeable. That means frogs can absorb water and oxygen directly through their skin. In fact, many species can breathe partly through their surface. Their adaptation allows frogs to survive in environments where other animals might struggle. But It also makes them extremely sensitive to pollution and environmental change. Because chemicals and toxins can enter their bodies easily through the skin. For that reason, frogs are often considered biological indicators. Their health reflects the health of the ecosystem around them. If frog populations begin to decline, it may signal deeper environmental problems. Clean water, stable temperatures, healthy vegetation. On Earth, the phytos are essential for amphibian survival, and that, despite these sensitivities, frogs have proven remarkably adaptable. Today, more than 7,000 species of frogs and toads exist across the world. They inhabit tropical rainforests, deserts, mountains, and wetlands. Some live in trees. The language of the night. As darkness settles over a wetland, the atmosphere begins to change. The air cools, the wind softens, and slowly, the silence of the evening is broken by sound. At first, it may be only a single voice. A soft croak from the edge of the water, then another and another. Within minutes, the entire wetland becomes filled with a chorus of calls. Dozens of frogs singing at once, each voice rising and falling through the night. To human ears, it may sound like random noise, but in reality, it is one of the most organized soundscapes in the natural world. 8 frog species produce its own unique call. Some sound like deep croaks, others resemble high-pitched chirps. Some create rhythmic clicking sounds. Others produce long, vibrating chills. These calls are not just sounds, they are signals, messages designed to travel across water and vegetation. And the primary purpose of the calls is simple: to attract a mate. Most frog calls are produced by males. During the breeding season, male frogs gather around wetlands and begin calling. Each call announces the frog's presence, its location, and often its physical fitness. The louder and clearer the call, the more likely it is to attract attention from nearby females. By producing these sounds requires a specialized adaptation, a structure known as the vocal sac. When a frog calls, it forces air from its lungs to the vocal cords. The sound then resonates inside the vocal sac, a flexible membrane that inflates like a small balloon beneath the frog's throat. The inflation amplifies the sound dramatically, allowing even a small frog to produce calls that carry escort large areas. Some frogs have single vocal sacs. Others have two. In certain species, the sacs can expand to several times the size of the frog's head, creating powerful acoustic signals. But attracting a mate is not the only reason frogs call. Their voices also serve another purpose: competition. Wetlands often contain many male frogs calling at the same time. Each individual attempts to make its voice heard above the others. Some species time their calls carefully to avoid overlapping. Others compete directly, increasing volume or changing rhythm. This creates a dynamic acoustic landscape, a constantly shifting chorus where each frog tries to stand out. Females listen carefully. They evaluate the calls, often selecting mates based on the strength, consistency, and timing of the signal. In this way, frog songs act as a form of sexual selection. In the life between water and land, when the chorus of frogs fills a wetland at night, it signals the beginning of something important, the breeding season. Male frogs call to attract females, and when a female approaches, a remarkable process begins. In most frog species, reproduction takes place in water. The male climbs onto the female's back in position known as amplexus. From that position, the male fertilizes the eggs as the female releases them into the water. The eggs may be laid in clusters along gelatinous strings, or sometimes attached to aquatic plants. Within each transparent egg, a new life begins to form. At first, the embryos are tiny dark dots surrounded by clear jelly. But over the course of several days, the dots slowly develop into small aquatic larvae. Eventually, the eggs hatch, and from them emerge tadpoles. Tadpoles look very different from adult frogs. They resemble tiny fish with long tails and no legs. Instead of their lungs, they breathe through gills, extracting oxygen directly from the water. In the early stage of life, tadpoles spend most of their time swimming and feeding. Their diet often consists of algae, plant matter, and microscopic organisms. Large groups of tadpoles can sometimes be seen moving together through shallow water. Hundreds of small bodies colliding through ponds and wetlands, but their aquatic life is only temporary. Because tadpoles are destined to transform, over time their bodies begin to change dramatically. First, small hind legs begin to form near the base of the tail. Soon after, front legs emerge. At the same time, the tadpole's internal systems begin to reorganize. Gills gradually disappear, lungs develop, the digestive system changes to support a new diet, and slowly the long tail begins to shrink. That transformation is called metamorphosis. It is controlled by hormones that guide the frog's body through each stage of development. During that period, the young amphibian is neither fully tadpole nor fully frog. It exists in a transitional form, part aquatic, part terrestrial. Finally, the transformation reaches its final stage. Urban wetlands. When people imagine wetlands, they often picture vast, marshy or remote swamps far away from cities. But wetlands do not always exist in distant wilderness. Sometimes they appear in the most unexpected places. Right in the middle of urban landscapes, cities are full of small pockets of water, stormwater ponds, drainage canals, park lakes, garden ponds, even temporary pools that form after heavy rain. To humans, these places may seem ordinary or even unimportant, but for frogs, they can become vital habitats. Urban wetlands often provide exactly what frogs need: water for breeding, vegetation for shelter, and an abundance of insects for food. Street lights attract flying insects at night. Mosquitoes gather near standing water. Beetles, moths, and flies move through gardens and parks. All of the creatures become prey for frogs. This makes city wetlands surprisingly rich feeding grounds. In many urban areas, frog populations remain active even when natural wetlands have disappeared nearby. Some species adapt especially well to human environments. Tree frogs, for example, often thrive near gardens and parks. Their sticky toe parts allow them to climb plants, walls, and even windows. During the day, they hide among leaves or vegetation. At night, they emerge to hunt insects drawn by artificial lights. Other frogs prefer ponds or slow-moving water. They rest along the edges of wetlands, waiting patiently for prey. When an insect passes within reach, the frog strikes with remarkable speed. A long sticky tongue snaps outward, capturing the insect in a fraction of a second. Urban wetlands can also serve as breeding grounds. Even small ponds can support entire frog populations. When the rainy season arrives, frogs gather around the water sources. The night air fills with their calls, and once again, the ancient amphibian life cycle begins. Eggs are laid, tadpoles hatch, young frogs eventually emerge from the water, on within environments surrounded by roads, buildings, and human activity. But life in the city is not without challenges. Urban wetlands can be unstable. Water levels change quickly. Pollution may enter through runoff. Artificial lighting can disrupt natural rhythms. Noise from traffic may interfere with frog communication. Despite the challenges, many frogs continue to adapt. Some species have even adjusted their course to be heard above city noise. They may call at different times of night or increase the volume of their calls. These small adjustments allow them to communicate successfully in environments shaped by humans. And in doing so, frogs become part of the urban ecosystem, quiet hunters controlling insect populations. Silent pest controllers. As night settles over wetlands and city ponds, frogs begin their quiet work. While their calls echo through the darkness, another activity unfolds in the shadow. Hunting. Frogs are among the most efficient insect predators in many ecosystems. Their diet includes a wide variety of small creatures, mosquitoes, flies, moths, beetles, spiders, and colored other insects that move to wetlands and nearby environments. For frogs, the insects are not just occasional snacks, they are essential sources of energy. A single frog may consume dozens of insects in one night. Across an entire wetland, hundreds of frogs may be feeding at the same time. Together, they remove thousands of insects from the environment every evening. The natural predation plays an important role in maintaining ecological balance. Insects reproduce quickly. Without predators, their populations can grow rapidly. Frogs help regulate the populations, reducing the number of insects that might otherwise overwhelm certain habitats. This is especially important in areas near water. Wetlands provide ideal breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Standing water allows mosquito larvae to develop easily. But frogs feed on both adult insects and aquatic larvae. By doing so, they help keep mosquito numbers under control. In many places, frogs act as a natural form of biological pest control. Long before humans developed chemical insecticides, amphibians were already helping regulate insect populations, and they continue to perform that role today. Frogs are also part of a much larger network of life. In the food web of wetlands and forests, they occupy a middle position. They are predators of insects, but they also prey for larger animals. Birds hunt frogs near water. Snakes rely on them as an important food source. Certain fish feed on tadpoles. Even mammals such as raccoons and otters may prey on frogs. The fragile amphibians. For millions of years, frogs have survived dramatic changes on Earth. They lived through shifting climates, through the rise and fall of ancient ecosystems. Through the age of dinosaurs and the arrival of mammals, their ability to adapt allowed them to spread across nearly every continent. But in recent decades, scientists have begun to notice something troubling. In many parts of the world, frog populations are declining. Some species are becoming rare. Others have disappeared entirely from places where they once thrived. The global decline in amphibians has become one of the most concerning environmental signals of our time. Their skin absorbs water directly from the environment, but the same trait also allows pollutants and toxins to enter their bodies. Chemicals from agriculture, industrial waste, urban runoff. All of these substances can affect amphibian health. Even small changes in water quality may disrupt frog reproduction. Eggs may fail to develop, tadpoles may struggle to survive. Another major threat is habitat loss. Wetlands around the world have been drained or altered. Cities expand, agricultural land spreads. Natural water systems are redirected or filled. As wetlands disappear, frogs lose the places they depend on for breeding and shelter. Climate change is also affecting amphibians. Changes in temperature and rainfall patterns can alter the timing of breeding seasons. Droughts may dry out ponds before tadpoles have time to complete metamorphosis. Extreme weather events can destroy fragile habitats. In addition to environmental pressures, frogs face biological threats. One of the most devastating is a disease known as schistosomiasis. This fungal infection attacks the skin of amphibians. Because frogs rely on their skin for breathing and water balance, the infection can quickly become fatal. Over the past few decades, the disease has spread across many regions of the world, causing severe declines in numerous amphibian species. Yet, despite the challenges, frogs continue to show remarkable resilience. Some species have adapted to survive in changing environments. Others have found refuge in protected wetlands and conservation areas. Even in cities, small populations sometimes persist in hidden habitats. Urban bonds, park wetlands, quiet drainage basins where water still gathers. These places may seem insignificant at first glance, but for frogs, they can become safe havens. Tiny refuges where ancient life cycles continue, where eggs still hatch, tadpoles still swim, and the voices of frogs still rise into the night. Protecting wetlands, both large and small, can make a meaningful difference for amphibians. Even small patches of water and vegetation can support local frog populations. The habitats not only benefit frogs, they also support insects, birds, plants, and many other forms of life. In this way, protecting amphibians often helps protect entire ecosystems. And perhaps the most powerful step we can take begins with something simple, noticing them, listening for their voices, understanding that these small creatures play a much larger role in the natural world than we might expect. Because when frogs disappear, something deeper within the ecosystem has changed. But when their voices continue to echo through wetlands and ponds, it means that life is still thriving there, even in places where we might least expect it. In the final part, we will step back and listen once more to the nighttime chorus, because the songs of frogs carry a quiet message about the resilience of nature, and about the hidden wild spaces that still exist within our cities. The voices that tell nature is still here. As the night deepens, the chorus of frogs slowly fills the air, voices rising from ponds, from marshes, from quiet wetlands hidden within parks and neighborhoods. These sounds have echoed across Earth for millions of years. Long before the first cities appeared, long before streets and buildings reshaped the landscape, frogs were already singing beside rivers and lakes, calling through forests and swamps beneath ancient skies. And even today, in the middle of modern cities, though voices remain, sometimes hidden, sometimes overlooked, but still present. If you walk near a pond after sunset and pause for a moment, you may hear them, a chorus of calls drifting across the water, each frog adding its voice to the night, together creating a sound that is both ancient and alive. These voices remind us that nature has not disappeared from our cities. It has simply adapted, found new places to survive. Small wetlands, garden ponds, stormwater basins, patches of reeds beside quiet water. To us, these places may seem insignificant, but for frogs, they are entire worlds, places where eggs hatch, where tadpoles grow, where new generations of amphibians begin their lives. And when the sun sets, the hidden ecosystem awakens. Insects begin to move through the air. Frogs emerge from their shelters. The wetlands spread with activity. A small but vibrant community of life continuing as ancient rhythms. The presence of frogs tell an important story. It means water is still flowing, plants are still growing, insects are still feeding. The ecosystem is still functioning. Their voices are signs of resilience, proof that even in landscapes shaped by humans, life continues to adapt, to survive, to sing. And perhaps that is why the sound of frogs carries such a special feeling. It connects us to something older than our cities, older than our buildings and roads. A reminder that beneath the lights and noise of modern life, the natural world is still here, sometimes hidden, sometimes quiet, but never completely gone. The next time you hear frogs calling through the night, take a moment to listen. Follow the sound to the edge of the water, watch the still surface of the pond, look closely at the roots and leaves. Somewhere in that small wetland, a frog is singing, announcing its presence to the world, continuing a chorus that has echoed across Earth for millions of years. A chorus that tells us something simple but powerful. Nature is still here, even in the most ordinary places, even within our cities. And sometimes all you need to do is listen.